By mid-May, I had stopped checking my phone for follow-ups from Lily. She didn't send any. No updates about the wedding. No gentle reminders. No, just checking in. Dad. It was clear what I was to her now, a potential contributor. A wallet with a name. A figure in a past she'd been told to forget. But I hadn't forgotten. I remembered the sleepless nights when she had colic and Claire refused to get out of bed. I remembered sneaking out early on Saturdays to buy her that overpriced organic baby formula Claire insisted on, even when we couldn't afford it. I remembered working overtime in the school district's summer program, just so Lily wouldn't feel the difference when her mother drained the joint account and filed for divorce. I didn't just remember. I had proof. Bank records, canceled checks, gift receipts for birthdays I wasn't invited to. Even the invoice for the ballot summer camp Lily had loved when she was 10. I paid every dime of it, quietly, without complaint. And I wrote the letter, not in anger, but with something more powerful. Clarity. I started it in the same yellow notebook I'd used to write lesson plans. The first page had remnants of a U.S. Civil War quiz I never gave. I tore it out and wrote slowly, deliberately, as if the paper itself could feel the weight of the words. Dear Lily, you probably didn't expect this. A letter. On your wedding day. But I needed you to have something more honest than a check. Something more permanent than a gift. Something no one else at your reception will be able to tell you. Not your mother, not your new husband, and certainly not the version of me you've been led to believe exists. So here it is, unwrapped. Unapologetic. I loved you before you were born. Before your first breath. Before I even held you in my arms at Huntington Hospital that rainy April morning. You weighed 6 pounds and barely made a sound. I remember thinking, she already knows the world's too loud for her voice. I was wrong. Your voice grew strong, determined. And for a while, I got to hear it every day. Until one day, I didn't. Your mother and I. Well, we failed at marriage. That part I won't deny. But you weren't a casualty. You were the reason I kept going. The reason I paid what the court ordered and more. Even when I lived in a one-bedroom apartment and skipped lunches to make ends meet. Your mother made sure I saw you less and less, and she always had a reason. Busy weekend. Not feeling well. Too much homework. But I never stopped trying. Never stopped waiting. Every time your name lit up my phone, I answered on the first ring. Every missed birthday tore a new hole in me, and still, I showed up. I sent gifts you never acknowledged, cards you never opened, money you never thanked me for. And now, you're asking me to help pay for a wedding I wasn't invited to plan, for a life I've never been asked to be part of. You see me as absent. But I was excluded. You think I didn't care, but I was cut out. And yet, I won't curse your mother. I won't call her names. I won't recount the things she did behind my back before the divorce or how she poisoned you against me afterward. That's between her and her conscience. But I want you to know this, I will not be funding your wedding. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. Because love, real love, cannot be withdrawn for years and then deposited again when it's convenient. And if you one day decide you want to know the full truth, I'll be here. My door will remain open, but I won't beg you to walk through it. You're not just my daughter. You're also an adult now, and choices come with consequences. I hope your day is beautiful. I hope your marriage is stronger than mine was. And I hope, truly, that when you look back, you'll remember that your father never stopped loving you. Even when you stopped loving him. Dad, I didn't print it right away. I read it aloud first, to myself, then again. There were no tears. Just a heavy stillness. Like the kind that settles after a storm. On the morning of the wedding, I wore a suit, not out of respect for the occasion, but for myself. I slipped the letter into a white envelope, sealed it, and clipped it to a folder filled with 30 years of paper. Proof. Silence. Sacrifice. I wasn't planning to cause a scene. That wasn't my style. But I would go. Not to disrupt. To deliver. Silverado Vineyards. Napa Valley. The kind of place you see in bridal magazines, rolling hills, golden light, and rows of perfectly manicured grapevines stretching toward the horizon. The venue wasn't just beautiful, it was designed to impress. This was no backyard affair. It was a showpiece, a declaration of status. Claire always did have a taste for the performative. I arrived early. Not early enough to draw attention, but just before the ceremony began. I parked far from the main entrance and took a side path that led toward the back garden. From the shadows of a eucalyptus tree, I watched the guests begin to arrive, laughing, hugging, kissing in polished suits and rented smiles. I spotted Claire first. She looked exactly the same and completely different all at once. The designer gown, the pearl earrings, the arm hooked through the shoulder of her current husband like she'd won some prize. She carried herself like she had forgotten everything about the woman she used to be, especially the promises she once made to me. Then Lily. She stepped out onto the patio, radiant in white, not the shy, bookish little girl I used to take to science fairs and ice cream parlors. This Lily was poised, grown, but her eyes, they still had that nervous flicker I remembered from when she'd auditioned for the school play in 3rd grade. For a moment, I felt my throat tighten. That paternal instinct tugged at me. I wanted to walk up, kiss her on the forehead, and tell her how proud I was. But I didn't. Instead, I approached the event coordinator, an impeccably dressed young woman with an earpiece and a clipboard, and handed her the envelope. "Please give this to Lily sometime after the ceremony," I said quietly. "It's from her father." She looked at me with the professional neutrality of someone trained not to get involved in family matters. She nodded once and took it carefully. I didn't wait to be seen. I walked back the way I came. Past the rental cars. Past the vineyard's iron gate. I didn't turn around. Not even when the music started. Hours later, Lily's dressing room. The reception was in full swing when Lily finally opened the envelope. She had slipped away from the dance floor for a moment to fix her makeup, giggling with 2 bridesmaids about how many glasses of champagne she'd already had. Then the letter was handed to her. She paused. The envelope was simple. No card, no fancy font, just her name, written in her father's handwriting, the one she hadn't seen in years. Her fingers hesitated. Claire appeared behind her, catching the name over her shoulder. Her smile dropped. "Don't bother with that right now," she said quickly, placing a hand on Lily's arm. "It's probably nothing." But Lily's curiosity stirred. She stepped away, locked herself in the private restroom, and read the letter alone. What followed was silence. No cries, no gasps, no smashed wine glass. Just stillness, until her mascara began to run. Meanwhile, back at home, I returned to my apartment just before sunset. I kicked off my shoes, loosened my tie, and sat on the worn-out couch that had supported me through 1,000 quiet evenings. I poured myself a whiskey. Not to celebrate, not to mourn, to mark something. An end, a truth spoken, a weight lifted, no fireworks, no revenge. Just the satisfaction of a man who no longer had to apologize for his absence. Because now, the record had been set straight. The truth was no longer mine to carry alone. Now, she had it too.